Good evening, everyone, or good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. It's your girl, Marcy Thomas, and I am here with you for another episode of BGC Book Club, which I am really excited about and can't wait to have you join us for this wonderful conversation. So please, as always, come on in the room and we can go ahead and get started here momentarily. Now, I am coming to you from the outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia, originally from Cleveland, Ohio, with a whole bunch of other places in between. So I always like to see who's in the room with us. So if you don't mind, you could drop in the comments to let us know where you're joining us from. If this is your first time, if you've been here a whole bunch of times, whatever the case may be, we want this to be a collective conversation because, as you know, this is Brown Girl Collective. So I am so happy to have someone with us who has recently put out her second book, but I know it's just two of many more to come. So the special guest for the evening is Etta Easton, who is a certified hopeless romantic who writes contemporary romance novels. Her stories are full of humor, relatable heroines, swoon-worthy heroes, and Black joy. When she's not reading or writing, she indulges in her s'mores obsession. I want to know about that. And searches for the next favorite love song. She lives in Central Texas with her husband and two young children. Now, you may be familiar with her from her debut novel, The Kiss Countdown, which has become a fan favorite. And this time, we're here to talk about her second novel, The Love Simulation. So without any further delay, let's welcome Etta to the BGC Book Club. Come on in the room. Miss Etta, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to have you here. And a quick shout out, I mentioned to you before we came on, a quick shout out to my sorors of Sigma Gamma Rho, Eta Sigma chapter. They have a book club. And as I told you, they're actually reading your book right now. So hopefully they will chime in and ask some questions and shout you out and all those great things. So yes. So I know this is your second go round. How does it feel different this time from the first time?
This time is kind of easier, right? I know
Right?
what to expect, and just getting through the launch was easier. In some ways, it was harder, like just having to write a book on deadline was
Mm,
harder.
okay.
Um, so yeah.
Yes. So when your first book came out, The Kiss Countdown, of course, it was your debut novel. So you had more leeway or more time to kind of pull that together.
Yes. Yeah, that one I think like over the course of about 2 years is when I wrote it. And it
Mm-hmm.
was pretty leisure. Like I would just, if I inspiration struck, I would write.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the Kiss Countdown, with the Love Simulation, um, yeah, that one, it was just a whole different beast. Like having to get into the mentality, like, okay, I have to get words in today. I got to turn this in by midnight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I've heard similar stories from other writers where they're like, hey, I'm on deadline. I don't have time for anything else.
Yes.
So, of course, I was reading in your bio that your actual journey into wanting to even think about romance started when you were in middle school. So, tell us a little bit about how you found romance novels and what was it that made you want to become a romance writer?
Yeah. So yeah, I started and I would say like even before middle school, like I was
Okay.
like the books I would read would tend to have the romance plot. But I had a friend whose mom was really into Harlequin novels. And so like we would go over her house and then she would just pull out her mom's bin of Harlequins and we would spend our time together just binging different novels starting in middle school.
Wow.
So yes, and so I'd move from like Harlequin, and then I would read, move on to like you know, urban romance.
Yeah.
Zane, are you familiar with Zane?
I'm familiar with
Okay,
saying yes.
yes,
In middle school, I'm not going to say a word.
yeah, it's a little too much. I know.
We
So
always know
Zane,
more than what our parents think we do. So, yes.
yes. And then I went through like just different phases. So, like I would also do historical romance. um, contemporary, paranormal. I love all the genres.
On the genres, yes, and there are several. So now, being that this is your second book, The Love Simulation, what were you doing before you finally decided, hey, I'm going to pursue this as an author and start putting some of my own stories out into the world?
Before I started writing, I was a stay-at-home mom, still am. So my two girls. Um, and I do a lot of I just try to do a lot of things that are creative. So
Mm-hmm.
before I was actually just doing a lot of sewing. I had a little sewing business of
Okay.
sewing hats, or like turbans with knots.
Oh, that's
So
pretty neat.
yeah, they were mostly for kids. Like I could do adults too, but mostly for kids. Super cute. Um, yeah, a lot of kid sewing. And I like to draw. Never sewed any drawings, but um, I like to do just a lot of creative stuff to keep me busy. And then one day, I don't know, I just had this scene of a story that just kept on playing in my mind. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, let's try it. And I was able to actually finish writing my first story. And I did try to query that one because I was like, well, maybe I can get it published. And that one didn't go very far. I didn't get an agent from it, but I did get some good feedback. So after that is when I started writing the love simulation, and I was able to get my agent, and then she was able to sell it pretty quickly to my editor.
Oh, wow. Wow. So that's pretty exciting. Now, your books, the first two books, The Kiss Countdown and The Love Simulation, have a theme, well, runs throughout the book of like astronauts and space and things like that. Of course, and for those who don't normally watch, we don't give spoilers, so we're not going to spoil anything, but this is in the blurb, so you can figure this out from the blurb. But what is it that has drawn you to want to talk about like space and people being astronauts and things like that? There has to be something because that's not a normal thing we read
I know.
about.
Yeah, I think probably because I just like living in the big city. I live in San Antonio, probably just because the night sky is so boring here. Like I've
Mm.
always wanted to just be able to see the stars and
Mm.
experience. Like I've heard that some people can see the Milky Way from like just
Wow.
looking up. I'm like, it's something I've always wanted to experience. And so when I started the Kiss Countdown, I just had this picture in my mind of two people kissing under the stars, and I pretty much just wrote a story around that, like how they got there.
Wow. Yeah, and I love it because I'm like, well, she must be a kind of a quote unquote science nerd a little bit, maybe. No. For your characters, yes.
Yes, the characters, yes. Me, I went to school for liberal arts.
Okay, okay,
So,
okay. So it's definitely the creativity within that. Because yes, there are things in here. I'm like, well, you have to know a little something about space and and science and things like that to even be able to tell the story. So for those who haven't had a chance to read the Love Simulation yet, give us a little background of what the story is about.
okay, so the Love Simulation, it is my mixture of Abbott Elementary meets Big Brother. Okay, so we've got Brianna Rogers, who is finishing up her first year as a vice principal. And she's just been having a tough time with the principal, always trying to just thwart her. Like she wants to make the school better, and he always opposes what she says because he wants her to quit so his son can have her job. So she thinks that she's finally got a win when he agrees to upgrade the school library with some bond money. But then at the end of the school year, she finds out that he played her again. He's not using it for the library. He's using it to upgrade the football field for middle schoolers, which is
Right,
totally unnecessary.
right.
But she's like, you know what? I'm gonna get the money anyway. She decides to join the some other teachers in competing in a Mars simulation. And if they are able to win, they'll get $500,000 for their school, which will be put towards the library. And
Yes.
so, she thinks she's got in the bag until she shows up, and the principal's son and the guy that she's got a crush on is there,
Yeah.
Roman, Roman
Yeah.
Major. So she thinks that he is out to do his father bidding to stop her from finishing up, and so she's attracted to him, but she doesn't know if she can trust him.
Yes, and it makes for an interesting story. One of my sorors, who is an educator, saying, "As an educator, I'm enjoying the book." Yes,
Mm.
yes, it is. It is good. And my mom is a retired educator. She did elementary school, but there are so many things in there that I could relate to. And just the whole point, as you all can tell, obviously I love books, and I've loved books since I was a little girl. So just the whole thought of a library and making a library nice and what we can do. And even in the book, there are times you mention different books, and as well as music and stuff. We'll talk about that a little bit. But yes, it was very heartening to read it and understand or see some of the things that I can remember my mom or my other educator friends dealing with. So I know we talked about the science nerd spot. Do you have space? But with the educator, did you have educator friends or things like that that kind of help walk you through what that would even look like?
Um, no, I don't have any teacher friends. Um, and the whole reason, like I was, or the thing that gave me the idea to have it set with the school, I read somewhere there was a school in Houston where the principal had decided to use the library for detention.
Mm,
And so it's definitely things that are happening. I was just like, this, of course, people are up in arms, like, a library should not be used for punishment.
right.
So that gave me the idea to set it in the school. And yeah, education, it just always seems to be under attack.
It
I'm in,
does.
yeah, like I said, I'm in
Unfortunately.
Texas, and they just passed some voucher bill that's going to end up taking money away from public schools. So, unfortunately, it is things that um, that's happening. So, I actually homeschool my kids,
Okay.
but yeah, I like to, try to keep an ear out of what's going on in the public space, and it's one of the reasons why I do homeschool.
Yes, yes, and kudos to you because I knew that you had you have your children and your husband. Like, but you're homeschooling too, well, and writing books. I'm like, yes, I'm like, shout out to you because I know that that's a lot to manage and juggle the different boxes and hats. And like you were saying, with your writing, you kind of find time here and there, and meeting deadlines and all that kind of stuff. So extra kudos to you for that. And just bringing these sorts of things to our attention because we hear a lot of times things on a broader scale, but understanding that there are things that are happening locally in local schools and things like that, as well as our libraries. And in this case it's a school library, but libraries in general, and how we need to support those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
But I really love Brianna's character because she is someone who, like a lot of us, is kind of searching to really find her place in space. I'm like, yes, she's this vice principal now, but it's like she's taken a road to kind of get there.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding is sometimes it's not a straight line.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, for her, she's definitely like feels like she's just floating. Her big brother and big sister have got their established careers, and this is her like third career in education, her third career move. And with the way the principal is teaching her, she's still feeling like she hasn't quite found where she belongs.
And that's something that a lot of people deal with, trying to find their space in their career. And then, of course, her brother story is told in the Kiss Countdown. So we learn about him, and yes, he's this astronaut. And then you meet, you get a little bit of her sister's story in this book as well. So yes, you're right; they're very highly accomplished people, and that can be a challenge for a lot of folks when it's like I'm not really sure where I need to be, but everybody else around me is doing all these great things, and some thinking that others are disappointed in them when maybe they're not, and we kind of get to see that journey that she goes through
Mm-hmm.
with that. So now she also, because in the past she's been a teacher, she's been a counselor, and now she is an assistant principal. That's a whole nother thing as well, because now she's in a space where she's a leader and what does that mean to be a leader
Mhm.
in the space, and how do you still continue to like build relationship and stuff like that. So just talk a little bit about that, because that's another theme besides the romance piece. We're gonna get there, but just in general what Brianna is dealing with.
Yes, definitely. Her now switching from being a peer to a leader, it's hard for her because a lot of the people that she's working with are her age to begin with, but she knows that she has to stay separate from them so it doesn't look like she's playing favorites. And she there's professional lines that she knows that she shouldn't cross
Mm.
if she wants her career to keep on advancing. She's got like this mentor who like always warns her. She's like, hey, did you hear about the principal who got fired because
Mm.
he didn't punish the kids effectively when they stole the computers. And actually that happened at my high school.
Oh
Um,
wow.
one of our principals got in trouble because he did not punish some football players when they stole like
Oh, 'cause
computer
football.
monitors. Yes,
Mm.
so the Brianna's mentor is always warning her to make sure that you're keeping everything professional, which Brianna is able to do for the most part, except for when it comes to Roman.
Mm.
Um, and it's just something about him that she's pretty good like during the day, just not she's not not like flirting and stuff, but except for like their morning meetings where she lets herself indulge just in the morning time.
Just a little bit, and it does put you in the mind of Abbott Elementary, and how like right now, of course, the names aren't coming to me, but y'all know if you watch it. Janine and what's
Gregory.
Right. Yes. How they're kind of like looking at each other across the room. Well, of course, now they're in a relationship, but earlier on, just watching all of that and seeing how that and how that could be in a real situation. Jill has a couple more comments. I can relate when it comes down to trying to grow as a professional educator. Yes, it's a lot trying to figure out which way you want to go and how you're going to do it, and then being able to maintain a sense of who you are, but then also understanding that people look to you as an example and all of that. So yeah, we see
Mhm.
that with Brianna. Jill says the storyline is so good. At one point I was getting confused about if they were actually in a simulation or actually on another planet.
Yeah, it's just a simulation, but they don't have the budget to get to another planet. Um, yeah, it's a simulation. And actually, I
Yes.
got the idea for the simulation when I visited NASA a couple of years ago after I
Okay.
had written the Kiss Countdown. And the tour guide, he's pointing out like different portables, just small portables. He's like, yeah, there's people in there who volunteer to go in there for like months at a time,
Uh,
so the scientists can just study the effects of long-term isolation.
hmm
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the thing in and of itself. So the fact of people being in the, I made me think of like Gail and some of the others who just actually went up into space. So it made me think about that. So in their case, it was like they really did it, but this is in your book. It's like it's a simulation. Just like sometimes people might do flight simulations or other types of things just to see what it would be like in real time. But and that's why I asked you if you were a science nerd, because just figuring out like what the planet would look like, what some of the things that they might encounter while they're there, because once, and it's not just for those who haven't read the book yet, it's not just Roman and Brianna, it's a team that end up in this space to go towards winning. They get individual prizes as well as
Mhm.
a group award if they can complete certain tasks and things like that. But yeah, just figuring out, okay, well, how would that work? And like what are these people doing to like make it seem like, I'm just making something up, this isn't in the book, like they're dropping a bomb on them or whatever the case may be. How do you even know that these would be things that would happen?
Um, for that, it's great because at NASA they offer a lot of their research online.
Okay.
So yeah, you can just go. They'll tell you like what the objectives are. They had some astronauts are so they have the individuals that will go in the portables, and then they also have some astronauts that went into a Mars simulation. And I'm bad with time now, so I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. But they went into this Mars simulation where their habitat was made using materials that the astronauts will be able to find on Mars. So they try to make it
Mm,
as real as possible. They 3D printed a habitat. The habitat they have when you go inside, it's just all red and it's so super small. That team had 4 people, and in the love simulation, I have five. A team of
5.
5. Yes,
Mhm.
but yeah, just doing a lot of research on NASA, and also there's a show called Stars on Mars. It only had
Stars.
1 season,
Okay.
and the host was William Shatner, and
Okay.
it's just with celebrities on a fake Mars environment, and that one is it's fun and over the top.
Okay, so it gave you some information as well, because
Yeah,
yeah, that's a process. But even for you as a writer, that's a part of the research that you have to do, because in this story, as I said from the top, and as you those of you who read it, you'll see it is different. It's not just, oh, we met on the block and we fell in love at the coffee shop, running into each other all the time. There is really like a deeper story beyond that, thinking about what's happening at the school, looking at what's happening in science, and the potential of going to Mars and things like that. So it definitely makes for a more interesting story for the reader, not just, okay, they met and fell in love over coffee, so to speak. But yes, I have another question. Which character was the most fun or challenging to write?
yeah. The most fun was probably like I had okay, so I'll pick 2. I had fun writing Brianna.
Mm,
She I was just like being in her head. I wanted to write. So this one is a slow burn. So
it
Roman
is.
and Brianna, like they're not together right away, but I had fun writing about her already having a crush on him and just drooling over him. There's this point where he's trying on his jumper, and it's super tight on him, and she's like, "Dang, where did they get that material?" Was it on Amazon? So that was super fun. And then also Angie was fun to write, just to have somebody who was just doing so much. Angie is totally different from me, just very loud and letting everybody know that she could have been, in vacation. Um,
Right.
but that was fun.
Yes.
Um, the most challenging would be Roman. Um, it's because I like writing single point of view, but then when you do that, you have to make sure that people know that the male does have feelings for,
Right.
the female, or whichever point of view you're writing from. Um, so just trying to make it clear that he wants Brianna too, and trying to show his motivations without giving too much. That was definitely challenging.
I can imagine. And you said slow burn. It is a slow burn. So no, everybody isn't. They're not going to be like enthralled on page 15. But it's something about the slow burn though, because it's like will they, won't they, or when they do, how will it happen, and things like that. And I think it gives people a chance to like get to know the characters really a little bit more and know what they're thinking and feeling as they're trying to make a decision. Because I mean, think about this. I mean, yes, in this particular case, it's still a workplace situation, even though they're not at the workplace when they
Right.
decide to come together. It's like summertime in this simulation, but there are always a lot of things to consider with anybody you choose to date. But when it's work, and then when really you're his boss.
Hmm.
So yes, it wouldn't necessarily be something that they would just jump in, because there are a lot of considerations. So I like that. I like the way it was put together. How long did it take for the book, from when you first started the story until it was published?
Let me think. So this one I started writing I think I probably started writing it in two, the end of 2023, and then so we're 25. Okay, so I think it probably took me like, let's say I had
Okay.
about a year to write it.
Right. Yeah, there's a difference.
But I did go through a lot of writer's block, and
Hmm.
just trying to. Um, I guess they call it the sophomore slump. So this one was definitely challenging, more challenging. So I had about a year, like 9 months to write it,
Mhm.
but I think it took me like 5 or 6 months to actually get it out on paper.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And thank you all for your questions, because these are just things to understand. Because you mentioned, as we mentioned earlier, this is the second book, and so there is a deadline and things like that. Where maybe with the first one, you got to have a little more leeway and all of that to play with it, and really work on it and put it out. But yes, between the time it takes to write, then you think, as you said, it has to go through the edits and all
Mhm.
these sorts of things, and then it's actually published. Because like what I asked one of the questions, you were like, "Yeah, it was 5." You had to think about it because it's been a while since you actually
Yeah.
wrote it.
Yes.
We're just now seeing it, but it's been a while since you actually wrote it, and I would assume you're probably working on something else already.
Mhm.
So, that's just the life of a writer. But when you wrote the Kiss Countdown, was the objective to have, because it's almost like it's a series, because it's the same characters but just different, some of the same characters, but focusing on different individuals. So was that the plan from the beginning, or is that just something that kind of came later on?
Yes. Initially I just planned the Kiss Countdown to be a standalone, and then I was gonna move to something else. Um, and then when I got my book deal, it was for 2 books. So we finished the Kiss Countdown, and then we just went through different ideas for another book, and we decided to, go off of the Kiss Countdown. Like, well, who else can have a story? Because Camille's already married.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Gina, who was the Emery's best friend from the Kiss Countdown,
Right.
she like kind of got her happily ever after. So I was like, well, I mean, Brianna, she was kind of like the forgotten sister in the mix, I feel like.
Gotcha.
And that was not purpose, or that was like when I did the Kiss Countdown, it wasn't premeditated that she was already going to have her book. It just happened to be that way. And I'm like,
Okay.
well, let's, tell more of her story. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's just interesting. So it wasn't necessarily even in the plan.
mhm.
And I love sometimes when things aren't planned and they turn out so well. They turn out so well. So now, Roman, we talked a lot about Brianna and her family background and how she's kind of gotten to this place of wanting to figure out what she's going to do with her life. Because yes, she's a principal, this vice principal now, but she's still, as you read the book, you'll see. Because I know everybody may not have read it or finished it, so we're not going to tell you everything. No spoilers, but there's just a lot of things that she's still grappling with, even in terms of her career and how she wants to show up. But Roman, he is a science teacher. He is working at his father's school. His father has his idea of what he wants him to be, but Roman, he may not want to do what his father wants him to do. So tell us a little bit about his character and the relationship that he had with his father.
yes. So Roman, he is, I guess, for a lot of the part, he is um, like mysterious, or like to Brianna, she'd probably be like, he's like Mr. Cool, cool, calm, sexy. He for a like during the school year, he is just kind of like unapproachable, especially to the other teachers. And in part, that is a lot because of his dad. The teachers don't trust that whatever they might say around Roman, they don't, they're worried that it might get back to his dad. So they're guarded around him. And in turn, he doesn't even try. He's just like, okay, whatever, I'm just here to teach the kids. But you can see during their morning, during Brianna and Roman's morning meetings, he's he's still quiet, but he's kind of participating in their little flirt. He'll get the tea for her, and he meets her there every morning. And then once they get into the simulation, that's where she's like, okay, who is this guy who like talks so much to me? Like, where was
Mm-hmm.
he during the school year? So he feels at that point that he can open up more, and it's probably because he has ulterior motives, and that is he's telling Brianna that he wants her, so that's why he's opening up to her. But on the other hand, there have been a couple of times at school where Brianna's not sure if he wants her job or not, just like his father is planning. So you never really know his motives
Right.
until we
As you
keep
read
on
this.
going.
Mm-hmm. And that's an interesting take as well, because I can't imagine like being in a play and being in Roman's position, because he's in a tough position where he's and you, as you read the book, you'll find out about his relationship with his father and their history and things like that. But it's like, I'm here, and people don't want to really be my friend, and yet but I like this girl and I want to make friends, I want to do good in my job, but I don't necessarily want to do exactly what my father wants me to do. So that's a tough situation. And in that regard, he and Brianna are going through something similar, because it's like who they want to be and how they want to show up, and measuring that against what other people might be thinking or feeling about how they should show up.
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So he's this hot dude. All the young girls, because it is junior high, so the little girls are looking at him. Some of the other female teachers are looking at him. The vice principal's looking at him. But yeah, very laid back, calm. But also smart. Also, as we get to know him, caring in his own way, and just a good guy who's kind of in a tough spot.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so is that what made him difficult to write, just because of all the different like aspects of who he was, or?
Yes, definitely. Definitely all aspects of who he was, and also um, I guess like not wanting to give away a lot, also because I wanted Brianna to keep on second guessing about his motivations. So that made it hard.
Yeah. Because I was wondering at some point, so I was like, okay, now is he really, or because people will do things for their own purposes, and try to trip you up and things like that. And of course, in romance, we know that there is going to be some type of happily ever after, but
Yeah.
how do we get to that space of the happily ever after and all of that? I also, just in the story, you mentioned Angie, who is one of the people who's in the simulation. I loved her because she was fun loving, kind of, devil may care. She just, I'm gonna have a good time. I'm coming here, to have a party, whatever. But then we also meet Jordan, who is actually the one that gets them into the simulation, who
Yes.
mentions it to them. And then we also have Simone. So they're kind of like the other characters that are all thrust into the situation, because as you said, it's kind of like a survivor. It's like if you took Abbott Elementary and made it Survivor, this is kind of what it would look like.
Yeah. Yeah. Just some teachers thrown together and just left to try and survive, and all different personalities clashing, and people possibly having different motivations. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then of course there's some confusion at different times, as Jordan is there, and they're trying to figure out what's with Jordan and Brianna. So I mean, it's just all kinds of room for confusion. And honestly, in reading, I thought that maybe somebody else was going to hook up besides them too. But maybe that's the third book. I don't know.
That's funny. Yes, somebody did tell me that. They're like, I could see those. I'm like, really?
Because I mean, it's one of those things. I won't tell my business, but it's one of those things. If you get thrown together with somebody in close proximity, sometimes things happen. Somebody you might not have paid attention to otherwise. So yeah, so that's something else. So Yeah, this is now. You also in the book you talk a lot about different books that they're reading because that is a theme. Of course, they're trying to save this library for the children, but then there are also books that they talk about as adults. So, and was it fun for you to like come up with different books or things that they could talk about, or were they things that you had already read, or how did you decide to incorporate that into it as well?
Yes, yeah, it was definitely fun to incorporate different books. So you have, when we're still at the school, a little girl, Monique, she's trying to decide, should she read Nick and the Remarkables or The Hate You Give, which are both by Angie Thomas,
Hmm.
both Angie Thomas, and I've read both of them. Nick and the Remarkables, my daughters and I, like, we both loved.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, so this is the one she's gonna pick. And the I wish I had it in here so I could show, but yeah, the little girl, she's got her Afro puffs on the cover, and it's
Hmm.
so cute. So it was fun to talk about that. And then Brianna, when she is in the simulation, her and her sister, they have this thing where they will prank each other. So her sister has slipped in the book that I'm blanking on now, Werewolf.
Yeah, I know it's something. Yeah, I
Something
probably
I,
could find it in here somewhere. But yeah, when I saw that, it's kind of like a werewolf love story.
yeah, it's by Kimberly Lemming.
I'm familiar
So
with this. Just I can't remember the title right now either.
I can't believe it. But yes, when I picked that book, I was like, okay, well, what would be the most humiliating for somebody who is trying to stay private, who doesn't
Mm,
want people to know what kind of books they read? Like, what kind of book
mhm,
would just embarrass them? And so I
mhm,
picked that one, which is a fun, cozy read.
mhm. So, because you have a love for romance novels, and you have for a long time, in writing, what was it that drew you to specifically want to write like contemporary? Because you had options, but what was it that drew you to want to write contemporary versus maybe historical or some other sort of romance?
Hmm. I'm not sure what drew me to contemporary because my favorite genre to read is actually paranormal romance.
Hmm.
But I think I heard a long time ago that like if you have like something that you love or like a favorite restaurant or whatever, like you should never try to work there or else you'll end up hating it. So
Well,
I mean, I used to love like Domino's pizza, and then I worked there, and then for years after, I never ate Domino's.
that's me with Pizza Hut, so
But
I understand. I understand.
so even though I love to read paranormal, I don't know if I would be able to like try to set up the world building and without coming on the other side and just like being traumatized and not being able to read it anymore. So,
Well, that makes sense. That
yes.
makes sense.
And then just with contemporary, I don't know, like when I just thought of a story, um, it was just contemporary, that my mind was playing just something here in the that could possibly happen. Um,
Hmm. And you throw a little old school in there, like with the music, and I said in your introduction that you are always searching for your next favorite love song. So
yeah.
obviously you love music as well. So we get to see, that in there as well. Some old school '90s music and stuff like that. So you give us a little bit of that.
Yes, I love music. My kids, they like to call it. So if we're in the car, they don't like my music. So let's say, no, I don't want to hear mama music. They think all my music sounds the same. But I love like Brandy.
Mm,
I love Aaliyah. I love Neo Soul, so I like Music Soul Child,
mhm.
Angelo. Um, I I like John Legend. I could just name them.
I'm
For
like, all the music. I think today's music all sounds the same, but that's me because I'm like, how do those people all sound the same?
yes, and it's so like when I find new songs, like I happen is when I do happen to find new songs, like oh, when did this come out? And it came out like 3 or 4 years ago. Like so, I'm always like late on the newest songs. There's a song by JoJo and PJ Morton, I think is his
Oh
name.
yeah,
It's
I know what you're
called
talking
Say
about.
So. Yeah,
Hmm.
I heard that song like a couple of months ago. I'm like,
Oh yeah,
dang,
that
this
is
song is
old,
good. And
but it
yeah,
does sound
it was
good.
old.
Don't feel bad because I'm the same way sometimes. I'm like, oh wow, I never heard that, and it was from like 1997. Like, oops,
Yeah.
like, where was I? But
Yes.
yes. But Karen has a question. I loved how you explored the sibling relationships and how Bree genuinely wanted to make them proud. Was that intentional? Um, is that something readers are meant to take away from their relationships?
Um, yes, it was intentional. I did spend, a good amount of time thinking about the relationship between Brianna and Camille, especially,
Mm-hmm.
and just how that sister dynamic is going to play because they are close in age. I think I just have them like 2 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
So, being that close in age, she's going to look up to her big sister, but also when she sees her big sister, just doing all these things. She's got the job, she's got the baby and the husband. Brianna, she wants that too, even though she's happy for her sister, she wants that for herself. But she doesn't want it to be where her sister feels bad because
Mm-hmm.
of how envious she is.
Mm-hmm.
So that was intentional. And, I'm the youngest, just like Brianna is.
Okay. Okay.
So it was easy to write that. I've got an older brother and an older sister who I, of course, looked up to as they were growing older. And um, they were, they left the home before I did. So I'd be like, dang, I can't wait to move out and be on my
Right.
own, stuff like that. So it was, easy to write. And then also just fun also to write their dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
So being that Brianna and Camille are so close in age, they're going to have that where they're always arguing, but there's still nothing but love between them.
Mm-hmm.
And Vincent, being the oldest, he's going to, he watches out for her. He wants to make sure that she is taking time to take care of herself outside of school and not isolating herself. He worries about her, but also he's gonna mess with her. So like, there's this point where she's like, What are they gonna make us eat in the love? And not what are they gonna make us eat in the simulation? He's like,
Right.
oh, when I was up there, I had to eat like baby food. So
Right.
he's just playing with her. So it was fun to write, how the siblings would interact with each other, but also, it was something I definitely tried to the the right vibe about.
What that looks like. Yes, and Karen is saying she's the oldest, that's why it stood out to her. Yes, so she's the one everybody's looking up to.
Mhm.
And she smiled. And Tony is saying it was a great follow up.
Thank
Yes, yes,
you.
yes. Yes, and I mean there is so much because I mean of course it is a romance, so there's a lot of emphasis on that. But in reality, and as we live life, we do have all these other relationships. It's not just a romance in a vacuum, so to speak. There are our parents and our friends and our jobs and all these other things. So really, in this book, we get to see all of that and how Brianna and Roman are navigating. Now, I don't know if Roman has siblings or not, but we do get to see a little bit of how he interacts with, some of his friends, at his work friends, the two that he has, because he doesn't like
Yes.
most people. But we do get to see some of that as well in the book, and I do love all the characters and how they show up, and they show up for each other and support one another. You got to read the whole book to really see how it all comes together in the end. But I think it's a well written story, and as Tony said, it's a great follow up. And in my head, I'm like thinking, I don't know. Maybe we could tell another story or go backwards and maybe tell Camille's story, but that's just me. Yeah. Because you
Maybe.
fall in love with the characters and want to see what's happening with them.
Yes. Yeah, Camille, she was so fun to write. Just she is she's like the over she, sorry, she's not the overachiever, but she's like definitely the one who holds the family together.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fun to write her and in both books because she made a
Mm.
prominent role in the Love Simulation and in the Kiss Countdown. So maybe I'll have to write how her and Lance got together. I don't know.
Yeah, putting stuff out there. Karen said, I agree. Yeah, a little flashback, flash forward, that sort of. So we're not telling you what to do, Etta. We promise. But you know how it is when people fall in love with characters. It's like they want to know what's happening with those characters, and they live with you and that sort of thing. So now I want to talk to you just a little bit about writing, like, processes, because as you mentioned, you are a mother, that is homeschooling your children, and so you're navigating their schedules and things like that, not only at home, but making sure they have activities and things like that, and also finding time for writing. So how do you kind of navigate the spaces to make room for writing?
A lot of my writing is done at night.
Mhm.
So I'm a big night owl. I guess they're like in bed by 10:30ish, and I just relax for a bit and then I start writing.
Okay.
I wish I could do it earlier, but I really don't usually start writing until like midnight.
Oh, wow.
Um, so yeah, and once I do start writing, it's usually from like midnight to 2.
Okay.
But I wake up late. So but yeah, other than that, like I will try to just write during the day, but I do during the day I don't get a lot of uninterrupted time. My girls are actually just 2 years apart, like Camille and Brianna. So there's a lot of arguing that I have to stop.
Ooh.
Um, Sometimes it's easier for like me to be mean so that they will be nice to each other.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so it's like I have to turn them against me and they'll be nice to each other and just go out and play and then I can get my work done. Um, but it's I don't know. It's hard just trying to
Yes.
get it in when you can.
And they're not babies, which would be one journey. They are like preteen age or
Yes.
preteen age. So that's a whole nother thing.
Hmm. Yes. I thought that as they got older that they would just like just go off and let me do my thing. But it's like I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna write for an hour. Somebody will come in my office, and then they'll leave. I'll tell them to go, and then as soon as they walk out, the other is coming in to. So I know that when they're older, they won't want to hang out with me as much. So
Right, right, right. And you'll be like, "Where are you?"
yes,
Instead of right now, instead of get out of here.
yeah.
Yes, I just want to ask about that because first of all, every author's or writer's process is a little bit different. But then, considering that there is a whole life that's happening around you, everybody can't just sit and write in a bubble. You know what I mean? And sometimes it might mean, okay, I'm gonna steal a couple hours here, a couple hours
Mhm.
there, or I'm going to write on the weekends, or I'm going a certain time of year. I was talking to one of my writer friends who's actually in the room right now, and she blocks out certain times of the year, that she's going to
Wow.
write or things like that, depending on what else is going on. So everybody's process is a little bit different. And your girls are proud of you. You told me that before. They think you're famous.
Yeah.
They say you're famous.
Yes, that's great. Actually, I went to the San Antonio Book Fest last weekend, and I got to be on a panel, and it was a great turnout. Me and my friend Gabriela Gomez, we were on a panel together, and pretty much all the chairs were filled. And my husband and kids, they were walking around, so they stopped just to look, and then kept walking. They're like, wow, Mom, there were so many people there. Don't they all know you? So, yeah, they like to hype me up. It's sweet.
I love that. So, of course, I know, like with many authors, once you have one book out, two books out, and when you're promoting one, you're oftentimes working on something else. So, is that the case with you already?
Yes, I am working on a third that I cannot share anything about yet, but
That's
or not much about yet. It would be I am like lately I've been inspired by or not lately, but I love like Eddie Murphy movies, the older Murphy movies. So like in keeping with like sciencey stuff, like The Night Professor. I used to
Oh wow.
love that movie. And The Night Professor, was it he the other movie where he can talk to animals? I forgot what it's called.
Dr. Doolittle?
Yes, Dr. Dolittle, yes. And which are actually remakes, he remakes
Right, they
some
were
older
remakes.
movies. But yeah, I love that kind of humor and wackiness. So right now I'm working on a Friends to Lovers that would kind of be in that vein. And hopefully I'll get to share more. But it's been fun and different. So yeah.
I love that. And so even though you're not necessarily doing the paranormal, you still kind of have like a little science fiction-y kind of things
Yeah.
going on in your stories anyway. So I love that, a way of tying it in. But that just makes me think about something though, because thinking about genre, because my writer friend and I were talking about that yesterday or earlier this past weekend, about how there's so much about genre that people will try to put you, say, well, it has to be this or that. So do you find that a challenge in trying to tell your stories, or you just tell the story that you want to tell and it lands where it lands?
Yes, I mostly with the Kids Countdown definitely was easy just to tell the story that I wanted to tell. For the love simulation, like that one, aside from the deadlines, that one was also kind of hard because now that I've got feedback from the first story and what people liked, it's like, okay, well, I want people to like this one too, but that was kind of hard trying to write to people's expectations. But also wanting to do something different where you see how much the girl is into the guy really before you know his feelings for her. So, I mean, ultimately it was what I wanted it to be, but just took a little harder to get there. Now with this one that I'm writing, I am back again, just, trying to write what I want.
Right.
Still, within like the confines of romance and, but I don't know, just making it fun pretty much is what I'm trying to do.
Right, right. Because there is a thing, that oftentimes people have, you're right, they have an expectation based upon what you did before and things like that. So I guess remaining true to who you are as a writer and how you may evolve along the way. And it may be something now and later on, it might be something different. But,
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's good because all of you writers, you are talented and I appreciate the work and things that you do. And want to see you be able to tell all different types of stories, because we have a lot of stories within us, and it's good to see like Black characters leading men, leading ladies, educated, you know all these things, beautiful, all of these things that we know that we are out there in the world, but to actually be able to pick up something and and see that, oh, these people are really smart because they are working in this simulation and they're having to figure out what to do and how to do it. So you have to have some level of intelligence to do that, or
Yeah.
that person who has gone to school and or not, but just really found themselves in their career and really operating in their genius and things like that. I love being able to see stories like that. So I appreciate you for that, Etta.
Thank you.
hmm So is there any place, I know this book came out last month, and so are there any places or spaces, you mentioned the San Antonio Book Festival, but are there places that you might be in the coming weeks or months that people can perhaps come out and meet you in person?
I will be at the Las Vegas Book Lovers
Oh,
Convention next month. That is the 15th through the 17th. So I'll be there. I'm excited about that. And I think that's the last thing I have right now. Yeah.
for now, but everybody,
For
as
now.
you can see, Etta's information has been scrolling, so you please be sure to follow her so you can see what things she does. If more things come up, when more books are released, just get a look into what she's doing, because and make sure that you purchase copies of the book, get them at your libraries. This book, we gotta go back to that. The book is talking about saving a library.
Yes.
And make sure that we're supporting our libraries and spaces like that, so that we can make sure that Etta's both books are able to get into more hands, and of course the ones that are to come. So thank you so much for being here and giving us some of your time. Your girls are quiet, so
They are quiet. I don't know what they're doing. Probably arguing.
what's going on? They're kind of quiet right now. That's something else. That's
Yeah.
something else. So thank you again for being here, Etta. And of course, as I always tell my authors, whenever you come here, once you've been here, you always welcome. So we just stay in touch and have you come back to share more of your stories and all the wonderful things that you have going on. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you everyone, like my sorors and friends who are in the room who asked questions and participated. And I hope we didn't say too much for the book club meeting. I don't think we talked too much, so there'll still be some things to talk about when we meet. So if you can hold on for me for just a second, I'm going to announce the next couple of books to everyone, but I'll see you in just a second.
Okay.
All right. So that was fun to have that conversation. I have been following Etta for a while, and so it was good to meet her and be able to have that conversation. And again, thank you to everyone who joined in and was a part of the conversation. So, somebody said I forgot to ask you about the s'mores. Yeah, I got to bring you back. Got to bring you back. Got to bring you back. Okay, so yes, thank you, Karen, for reminding me. Yeah, tell us about your fascination with s'mores.
Okay, so I love s'mores. Now, specifically, I love microwave s'mores.
Okay.
Yes, I have had them toasted, but I'm not a fan of the when the marshmallow tastes like fire. But I have heard that in Las Vegas at the Hershey shop, like you can get s'mores and like pretty much just add like all these different toppings. So I have this downstairs. I have this cup. It's like as big as my head, and it says s'mores on it. I love s'mores, so I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be in Vegas soon, so please. I was there a few weeks ago. I didn't know about that, but I'll remember that for next time because I like s'mores too. Thank you, Karen, for reminding us. All righty. So yes, again, thank you all for being here and being a part of the conversation. I do appreciate all of you for that. So just as announcement, on Wednesday, I actually will be speaking with Brenda Jackson about her 150th book, Spilling the Tea. So yes, I can't wait to talk to her about Spilling the Tea and the fact that she has written 150 romance books. So yes, look forward to that on this coming Wednesday. And then next week, Monday, we have Tati Richardson, who will be here to talk about losing sight. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Tati writes, as somebody else said, she's very spicy. I haven't read it yet because I always read right before. So those of you who like spice, or as some of my friends say, smut, something a little smutty, we'll get ready for Losing Sight next week. So I look forward to seeing you all as we have these next conversations, and there's so many more to come. So thanks again for being a part of the BGC Book Club, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon. Take good care. Bye.